I want to talk about my show and tell item. This is a Queen Castle. Queen Castle, we run 10 frame equipment. We'll pull some frames out. You have to forgive me, but I didn't want to bring all the creatures with it, and it had some ants and such. So I'm going to talk about, it's a 10 frame box. It's got a bottom. Excuse me, we custom make all of our equipment. One thing that, let's talk about some of the how-tos. So the entrances are drilled at about a 30-degree angle upwards, so rain doesn't get in. We cut these grooves here, and what this allows us to do is we've got, I was using Luan, that's 1/4-inch plywood, and that's the worst idea. It doesn't hold up in the weather. Bugs love it in between the layers. The ants are terrible. Masonite's the way to go. So we're gonna. I've literally got rid of all the dividers, but I can drop a divider in here, here, and here, and now we've got 4 2-frame hives. So in this case, we call it spot 1, 2, 3, and 4. The entrance for spot 1 is on this side, and spot 4 is on this side. And then 2 has an entrance here, and 3 has an entrance here. Once we get our splits made into these, we'll put a piece of porch screen across the top, and then put our lid on after that. We don't run inner covers. This is as much as we run. The bee industry will sell you anything, but the bees don't care. They like hollow trees, they like walls, they like carports, right? They just need a box. So, I don't know if you can see it from here, but this is not level. The wood worked a little bit. We have holes that you can see through here. The bees will propolis it if they don't like it. These are happy accidents, as Bob Ross would call it. The warping of the wood allowed for cracks. Cracks, certain times of the year, can cause robbing. It also makes for tougher bees. This is very savage, but I only want the strong to survive. So if we get a colony that gets beat up on, I'm at work, I won't know about it. We come back next time and they're robbed out and they're dead. I'm completely fine with that. If we have colonies that, like, you guys asked me at dinner tonight, do I do mite washes and check for mites? No. It requires time and effort that I don't have, and if they don't make it because of mites, good riddance. I don't want them in the breeding program. We have a lot of things that we gladly say, good riddance. Most people wouldn't think, like, why would you want good riddance to your hive? But we are trying to get rid of anything that would not make a better bee. And I, like, without going down the rabbit hole, that's the easiest way to talk about it. So, somebody asked me, and I've shown this in another video, but how do the queens know which hole to come home to? Corey had this great idea. She got these waterproof playing cards from Amazon. And they're like $7 a pack. So what we do, put the reds on this side and the blacks on this side. So ace and club, diamond and heart, but it's not the same. It'll be like the queen of diamonds and the 2 of hearts and the 10 of clubs, and you just put it right beside the hole and just a staple, and the bees know, and we get 4 out of 4 all the time. And in our operation, we run 70 of these. So we can make 280 2-frame splits every 3 weeks, or a queen, a well-mated queen. That's scalability. But you can literally just do this. Well, if we get a little co-op together, the club gets organized, you guys can make queens all summer long, like once a week. And with 3 or 4, I mean, somebody's got some woodworking skills in the room, I guarantee it. Fairly cheap and easy to make. And then if the method I talked to you about earlier, which is just remove, I'm gonna give you the example. This is your parent hive. Take the queen and some resources. It's just essentially a nuke. Just put it here. And now all the foragers come home, and it only leaves the new queen, the nurse bees, and feed this colony, give them a pollen patty, and give them some syrup, like 1 to 1. And that way they've got good nutrition, because good queens start with good nutrition. So you come back in here about day 8, day 9, and you'll see lots of cells. And now, I don't waste a cell. We get a little box cutter blade. I don't waste this cell. I was telling at dinner. At one point this year, we had some hives that were beekeeper neglect. As you can imagine, we're a little busy. And I came back at one point in time, I had 5 virgin queens in one hand. They all emerged right there in front of me. I came in and I told Corey, like, I'm literally just pulling out a frame of brood, stick it in a random box, give a queen. You know what I mean? I'm just making decisions fast, not worried about where the queen is. If we take the queen, she'll kill the virgin, but otherwise, like, it's just a numbers game. But if you use that method, and let's say the club had like 3 queen castles, you can make queens with great stock. And you mentioned to me, like, tell me about your queen stock. You've bought
Corey Stevens. We have 5 queens from Corey, 2 from Brian Fisher, 1 from Michelle, and the other 2 were Q-Ticks.
Yeah,
and then they've all been, the daughters have all been local bred.
There's your genetic diversity from some of the best breeders around. And like, for instance, I mean, Joe Latshaw, they're about $600. 4 beekeepers can afford 150. Pitching together, and now you requeen, and you're going to requeen your outfit like that. Where I'm going with this is rinse and repeat year after year. It takes a few years. This is like a 5-year goal as a little co-op. But if like 10 of you got together, suddenly that's like, you know, your cost averaging down. But the point being is you can breed some really, really awesome local genetics. And then you can also incorporate other folks like ourselves, genetics as well. But I can't sit here and tell you that like Kudix is out of, they have a Florida and New York. They go to New York. Corey Stevens is in Missouri. I can't tell you that you can take these bees up to this elevation. They're just going to do fantastic, right? Well, what do? Well, we see who came out of winter swinging. That narrows your search. Instead of saying, I'm going to keep my 10, and you're going to keep your 3, you're going to keep your 4, I tell people this, why do you come to the bee club? It's to meet other beekeepers. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I'm a bee nerd, and Corey's the only person I can talk to.
And I'm so glad he has y'all so that I don't have to listen to him.
And like, we sat down at dinner tonight, and we were just like, everybody was happy to be able to talk to each other. You know? Because there's such a rare group, and it's hard to meet beekeepers. So instead of going like, oh, well, these are my genetics, and like, oh, these are yours, and like, right? Like, start using the club at the club level. It gives you, and here's the thing too, like y'all mentioned, this club has intentions to grow. As you get more people involved, and you continue the rinse and repeat over the years, you can build some fantastic, this is like the Arnold Palmer method, just on steroids with a little better testing. But literally, I mean, you can build some really awesome genetics in this area. We argue about, will VSH genetics be good honey producers? Is that something that we can select for? And the answer is no. There's too many variabilities. Flora and fauna of the local area can be just a few miles apart, significantly different. How well the queen is laying, at what rate, how many eggs a day. If this queen's laying 1,000 eggs a day and this one's laying 3,000 eggs a day, well then, in a matter of 6 weeks, this colony's going to have way more foragers, and then this colony's going to lag, and so the honey weight difference. This colony over here could be near like a canola crop or just something, you know, a crop that's blooming, heavy in nectar, and this one 2 miles away doesn't know about that spot. So we can't say, as of right now, it's just too many variabilities. What I can tell you about my stock in our testing, Corey calls it corner lot energy. In a commercial bee yard, we tend to set them up in a long row, and I like to set mine near trees so that we've got that windbreak there. And I understand up here, Susan was telling me that's a very big deal. There's your wind up here, so think about where you're putting them. In a commercial bee yard, it's the workers go out and they're coming home and they're tired and they stop at the first hive. They don't go to their hive. So inevitably, you do get some genetic diversity, but you also get the most honey crop on the ends. Well, in our yards, our 7 breeder queens, did like stupid numbers. If you watch my UBO video on Ashby Farms, it's Ashby Farms NC is our YouTube channel, our Facebook page. Our UBO video shows I run all deep equipment, very heavy. It's about a 90 to 100 pound box of honey. And we have one colony that made 4.5 boxes on a single brood chamber management. I had all 7 of my breeder queens made at least 250 pounds. So I could claim and go, if you want to do really good genetics, you're going to make a lot of honey. But we know that's not true. We can't say, or what I can say is, in my experience, all of my corner lots were also my best UBO highest testers because you get the genetic diversity. Plus, they make the most honey. We make honey. Like, I don't care how we get it. Like, one eye does better than the other. But the point being is, I'm gonna, like I said, nothing's set in stone. Over time, all right, we're gonna requeen next year across the board. Phil and I were talking today about the propensity to swarm. For those of you who are new beekeepers, it is, I'm going to tell you our timeline, and you guys are about 2 to 3 weeks behind, okay? So the colony comes out of, in early March, March 12th. The colony is so strong, it's going to do what Mother Nature wants, and it's going to swarm. The queen's going to leave, and a large portion of that hive is going to leave with her, and they're going to make a new queen. And this is how Mother Nature would like bees to replicate. The problem is that large chunk of bees, a month from then, because our nectar flow starts by April 15th, was supposed to be the forager bees to go get the honey to bring home. If a colony swarms on you, you're not going to make as much honey, if any. We know this. So what we do is we go in and we create the swarm for them. But we want to leave a certain amount of bees behind. And beekeeping is 50% science and 50% art. And the art comes from just doing enough time, years of experience. I'm seeing you smile because you've probably dealt with this same thing, I'm guessing. So we like to, if it's March 12th, I'm gonna leave behind 1 frame of food and 3 frames of brood, and the mother queen and the parent colony. Anything else gets stolen as a split. And we're gonna feed heavily, and there's lots of pollen starting to come in. Pollen's your protein. Feeding sugar is your carbohydrate. And they're gonna fill out a single box like this. They're gonna go from 4 frames to about 8 frames in about 3 weeks. So right around the 1st of April, we're gonna come in, we're gonna add a 2nd box on there. And that colony is gonna quit, we're gonna feed again. That colony is quickly gonna populate this 2nd box and draw out those frames. I've seen it happen in like 9 days. A frame a day. It happens very fast. And of course, if I don't go ahead and pull that colony back a 2nd time, it's gonna swarm right around April 15th, April 20th. There's no honey crop. Well, an average colony for me costs about $75 a year in operations costs. So if we have 100 colonies go out the door, my business takes a $7,500 hit. Those bees still have to have management the rest of the year to get them to next year. So we don't like swarming, obviously. So we come in around the 9th of April, we take a 2nd nuke. We want to pull them back just enough where they don't want to swarm. And ideally then, 3 weeks after April 9th, it's about May 1st, and that's when I want my colony numbers to peak. I want the colony to peak about 2 weeks after the nectar flow starts. And in a normal year, then they don't swarm. But this was not a normal year. Did anybody here have a not so normal year? I've got commercial guys with 1,500 hives saying it's the 1st week of May and they're seeing swarming like a 1/3 of their outfit. We saw a 1/3 of our outfit swarm for no good reason. So we took a hit on the honey crop. I know 6 guys that this happened to. We all kind of took a beating, if you will. But this is beekeeping, it's farming. Nothing's predictable. So what we do know about VSH, there's some speculation that as long as you manage the swarm control correctly, from what we know right now, it significantly reduces the desire to swarm. We're keeping the bees in the box. And what that equates to is, if I can keep that queen in there and the timing right, we're gonna make a lot more honey from changing our genetics. We don't have to deal with a lot of the brood diseases. Let's talk about wax moths and small hive beetles. We spoke about that at dinner. What do y'all do to manage small hive beetles?
I usually use the oil traps.
Okay. Like the top, they lay in between the frames? Okay. Does anybody use Swiffer sheets on Cindy? Okay, yeah, that's what we use. They're cheap. We get them on Amazon and just cut them in half and change them out as we need. They're a leg trap for the small hive beetles. Small hive beetle and wax moths are a symptom of other problems. Other problems can be diseases brought on by Varroa, queen failure due to poor mating. Poor mating comes from low amounts of sperm. When you start going to this model of creating what the big guys do, I mean, if you pool your resources, you're the same size as me, in a sense, for the application of a mating yard. When you get well-mated queens, you get longevity. I mean, some of Michael Palmer told me, and he keeps these meticulous records. He had a new queen in 2002. It was requeened in 2009. It was requeened in 2015. No super seizures. Now that's not every possibility, and this is a guy with 50 years experience, right? The point being, if I get 3 years out of the queen, I'd be delighted. Realistically, I'm probably gonna sell that 1-year-old queen as an overwintered nuke, so she's got a year under her belt, and then requeen with my genetics every year, because I'm in the genetics game. But think about this. If your queen has longevity, she keeps the numbers up at the critical points of the year. Like right now, for us, if we used Apigard this year. Apigard's a mite treatment, and it is thymol based, and it is tough on the bees. We had days of like 90 to 95 degrees plus the heat index. So a standard dose is 50, and we were using 30 as directed. And our bees took a beating. Like 25% of our outfit is not where I want it to be. So we're feeding, actively trying to get those colonies back up. But what we found is, of the 25% took a beating, there's frames of pollen sitting there, and there's no bees to manage them. There's not enough bees to corral the small hive beetles up onto the Swiffer sheets. And then all of a sudden they start laying larvae, and then you've got like slimed messes. And in the colony, I mean, picture two, for those of you who don't know, this is a deep box. We got double deeps. We've got a colony taking up this section, a quarter of the box, but there's 3/4 that they're not managing. And then, well, for an average beekeeper who's got 6, 10 hives, if they're not all strong, there's nothing you can do to hurry up the process of the amount of bees in there. You can reduce the colony size, and that's one option. But we have lives. Everybody does. You can't be on top of your bees all the time, every weekend, you know? The point being is, those small hive beetles can take over fast.
don't have lives.
Well, that's
Yeah.
I mean,
when you were like, we don't have to do it every weekend, I was like, since when?
we see our bees out every 3 weeks.
I don't have hive beetles. I got plenty of bees.
Okay, but the point being is that the small hive beetles are a symptom. Wax moths are a symptom. Varroa diseases are a symptom. They're all lack of Varroa diseases and small hive beetles are 2 different symptoms. But the point being is, if you've got the population and the numbers there, then you don't run into a lot of these problems. It all comes back to genetics. I'm gonna then, 10 minutes left? Thank you, dear. Okay, so I'll wrap this up. I don't want to bash other queen breeders out of the Florida, Georgia area, being South Georgia, North Florida. They are 6 weeks ahead of me by the timelines, and I am unwilling to compete with my fellow competitors in the Piedmont to be the earliest to market. Some people are like, it's March 1st, can I get my bees? And I'm like, what you're saying really is, It's March 1st. Can I have a poorly mated queen and lots of problems? Come on, y'all. I mean, those with experience are shaking their heads, yes, yes. Those early queens that come out of that area, nobody's focused. I say nobody. Few people are focused on quality genetics. A lot of people are just trying to get packages and nukes out the door to go north at $100 a pop so that I can come down there and buy them at 100 and I can undersell the guy at 150 and sell them all day. And this happens over and over and over and over and over, and it spreads these genetics across everything east of the Mississippi. And 30 years goes by, and everybody goes, we have a mite problem and we don't know where it comes from. We've known for like 15 years that genetic diversity is the answer to the varroa problem. It's not that I'm gonna breed, I can tell you right now, I'm not gonna breed a bee that just gets rid of mites. That's not gonna be my promise. But my goal is, if the colony could keep the threshold under 1% mite load, which for those of you doing mite washes, you take a frame, you make sure that there's no queen on it. You shake that into a plastic bucket. You give them a little jiggle. And if there's not enough bees, you do it again. Your goal is to get nurse bees that don't fly. All the foragers, they'll fly back home to the parent colony. You take a literal half cup measuring spoon, you scoop it, you put them in a little cup, you pour some isopropyl alcohol on them, and it's gonna kill the bees. And there's approximately 300 bees in a half cup. And you shake, and you shake, and you shake for around 1 to 3 minutes, depending on who you ask. And then you count the mites laying on the bottom, okay? And this is what they call mite wash. And Anne, if you have questions on how to do it,
I'm a mite washer.
she's a mite washer, okay?
Come to our picnic and you get a demonstration every year.
Yeah. So, you know, we look at these bees that are coming out of this area. Those bees are at like 400 feet elevation. I can't imagine why they wouldn't do good up here at 2,200 feet elevation. Yeah, I mean, what a conundrum, right? They're early, which means there's not enough drones in the area, so the drone density isn't there. I'm back to I'm painting that whole picture for you, right? We talked about we want a certain amount of drones in the area at any snapshot of any given day. Well, no wonder they're poorly mated. And then they spread. There are rumors, and I don't want to say the person, but they claim that they bred 100,000 bees off of one queen. Where's the genetic diversity? My goal is to create 1,800 queens off of 20. You see the growth? So when you start saying, how can we do this locally as a co-op? Our goal is to breed a better queen. You guys can do the same thing I'm doing. I'm not special. I just happen to be a bee nerd, you know. But literally at the club, I'm preaching this to every club that'll listen. This is going to be our answer. If we could get those bees to keep the mite threshold under 1%, your winter losses would be less. It equals more money and honey in the spring, more nukes, and overall bee health. Then we can get a new baseline. Say, oh, well, dang, you know, Rockingham County, yeah, their club didn't really get together, but man, that Toe-Cane Beekeepers Association 5 years later, they got some bees. If you're doing something right, you will start receiving phone calls from other people who call me and say, can we trade virgins? I'm liking what you're doing. I said, well, right now, the 4 of us in a co-op all tested UBO. Are you going to test UBO? Yeah, I'm going to do it. Can I be there for it? Oh, I don't know if we got the time. If I can't validate and I don't trust who it is, that's a biosecurity risk to my program. We're not doing it, right? So one guy was like, yeah, will you come help me do the test? You're done. Absolutely, I will. Because he's far enough away to get that genetic dirt. Eventually, we're going to bring in lots, and we're just going to rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. And eventually, we get to the point with UBO, the score is 60 and up. I want to get to a point where like we're only selecting 90 and up. You know, there are better scores. So with that,
I was just gonna say that for some reason my iPad has lost the pictures. I'll need you to resend them to me. But if anybody wants to see what UBO looks like in terms of percentages and what it actually looks like, then I've got some pictures here.
there's 2 videos. If this really interests you, I hope I didn't waste anybody's time here tonight. It's more, this is like an educational opportunity on what we're doing. But there's 2 videos I'd like you to watch. One is ours because we're a lot funnier. And
Oh,
then,
we are?
so Phoebe Snyder, you'll recognize her. She spoke at this club. She came out hands-on with us, and Phil was there also. And Phil does not like recognition, but there's a couple people I love to bounce ideas off of and really listen to and help me think through our logistics. And Phil's one of them. Phil Haynes. He's in the video briefly. He doesn't like the recognition. I told him I was going to call him out. I love Phil. He's just like the best. And then the other video to watch is Dr. Corey. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's Dr. Corey Stevens now. He got a doctorate in entomology. It's Corey Stevens, and Carol Wagner is the other business partner, and she came out with Corey to do the test, and it's put on by Nathan at Duck River Honey. Nathan went to go do the filming of that. I want you to pay attention. At the end of my video, I have all of 23 of our tests. It shows you a before and after at the very end of the video. And I stopped along the way and gave you a quick snapshot of the results when I was editing that video. You'll see that my scores, a score means that all right, it's running with UVO and I'll wrap it up. You spray this, there's a PVC pipe and you spray this pheromone on it and it tells the bees, hey, the larvae underneath are stressed and they're stressed by varroa and they're emitting a signal. And so what we do is we take that frame and we put it back in the colony, and 2 hours exactly later we come back and we remove it and we count if they've perforated the wax capping at all or if they've completely removed the pupa, then that counts, and it's just literally counting. So at the end of my video you can see the before and after, and that's how we come on, and I put the score there with it. You'll notice on mine maybe 30% of the pupa got completely removed. And my higher scores, the wax cappings are at least uncapped. And what the bees are doing, they're just checking on them. And what you'll see, and we're going to show you some pictures after if you want to hang around, is they'll recap. Recapping is a trend that you'll see in hygienic behavior. And it's actually a really good thing. And I've got a picture with some arrows I'll show you afterwards. Corey Stevens stuff, on the other hand, like I said, he's been doing it 15 years. He's been breeding specifically. He's got a doctorate in entomology. This guy is light years ahead of me, right? Corey's high scores, like completely removed every single pupa. He tested 80 colonies, like 38 or 40 of them were high scores, above 60. And his high scores, like in a matter of 2 hours, completely removed. They don't like that varroa stuff at all. So we know it's possible. It's just a matter of how do we spread these genetics to North America. There has to be more people. It can't just be 10 of us, and we can't keep promoting. If a couple people, and without names, in Florida and Georgia would say, I'm going to step up and do the same thing, then I would be like, hey, buy their stuff. They're 6 weeks ahead of us. That gives you light years ahead in the spring. It would make sense. But until somebody steps up and does that, I'm not going to promote that. Another thing too is a lot of times those queens are pulled at 2 weeks. A queen doesn't fully develop her pheromones until about 3 weeks. So I won't sell a queen unless it's been laying for 3 weeks. It means that I can breed less queens in a total season. If anybody's been keeping bees long enough, those spring packages have a high supersedure rate. Spring nukes, not so much because that's usually their queen, but packages, those bees and that queen don't even know each other. So I don't promote that. I promote buy local. If you don't buy from me, golly, Michelle, fantastic stock nearby. Brian Fisher's, he's spoken at this club, he's down in Concord. Fantastic stock. These are people who are out there, their money's where their mouth is. They have hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours involved. That's who I'm encouraging you all to buy from. And of course, I mean, buy from us too. So, that's a wrap, guys. Thank y'all for listening.